Number 16 Duke will play Florida State. Number 4 ranked Noles are 14-point favorites on ABC, 6:30 p.m. What do we think about Florida State? Because they've had their moments where they've looked really good. They've had their moments where they've looked lost without the map to the center of the maze. Trey Benson has certainly come on strong. It seems like the running game is going in the right direction, but this outside of Clemson, where their running game disappeared, this is the best defense that they might play the rest of the way. 14 seems like a big number for the Noles. Am I wrong there?
Well, I think it's definitely factoring in that we still don't know about Riley Leonard, right? Because the backup, whose name's escaping me right now, he got
Belvin the fourth.
Yes, I knew it was very dignified with the fourth.
It's a very Duke, yeah.
He belongs at Duke.
Absolutely, absolutely. But he got the job done. He got a win last week, but it certainly wasn't a pretty win by any stretch of the imagination on the offensive side of the ball. I think he completed 4 passes throughout that entire game. So,
for 2 touchdowns.
He had 2 touchdowns. So his touchdown to completion ratio is
he has the same number of passing touchdowns as Riley Leonard this year.
There you go.
They both have 3 on the season.
And if Riley Leonard threw 2 touchdown passes for every 4 completions that he had, I think that stat would be a little different. But listen, I think that's built in, right? The uncertainty on Riley Leonard's injury is certainly built into this line. If Riley Leonard plays, you could get a fantastic value at Duke plus 14.
Yeah.
And Coach Mike Elko has said he's day-to-day at this point. So who knows? They tested it out last week. I think he was on the field testing out the ankle. So we'll monitor that and keep everybody updated on social media. But it's a situation where I trust Duke's defense to a certain extent to not hold Jordan Travis in check, because I don't think that you can completely hold this offense in check. There's too many weapons. There's too many ways that Florida State can beat you. But I don't trust that Florida State can bury Duke completely. I don't trust that Florida State can, completely put the Duke Blue Devils away. One, because they haven't really done it so far this year outside of the LSU game. They buried LSU. They've kind of fallen asleep at the wheel a couple times outside of that. But I also think Duke's a team that just doesn't give up, and they'll grind away and they'll chip away and they will keep ugly up this game and keep it close. We had a stat a couple weeks ago that Duke, Mike Elko as an underdog, is fantastic against the spread. So that is a more than enough reason, tipping my hand here a little bit, to take Duke plus 14.
Yeah, well,
I have no idea which way you're leaning.
Yeah,
no, for me, the
slide up
big
in a
thing
second.
here, you got to watch this. And we have it on the X's and O's. Can Duke stop the Florida State run game? This has been the reason why Florida State's looked better recently, right? Yeah. They kind of play with their food with some of these early games. They didn't quite finish off Boston College. You give them a sloppy win. Then they play Clemson and they beat them by a touchdown, but it sure wasn't pretty. And then all of a sudden, last week you're looking at them, they, smacked the crap out of Syracuse. And, you look at how it happened. Well, they rushed for 191 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground. So if the run game is there, I think that their offense can start firing on all cylinders. That's when they're at their best, is when they're running the ball, playing off of play action, getting guys open and the like. But then I'm looking at Duke and I'm saying, okay, guys like Dwayne Carter have to have a huge game, right? You have to be able to muddy up the middle. Don't give Trey Benson anywhere to run. And you have to be able to say that we're going to win up front, right? We're going to win in the trenches. We're going to stop them. We're going to, maybe keep them off the field, win a couple things, win the time of possession. That's another X's and O's that we have. And just find ways to just win those little things. And then whether or not you get Riley Leonard, you can probably keep this thing close if you're able to run the ball on your side as well. They got a lot of good runners there at Duke. Jordan Waters, one of them. And so, I'm thinking if they can run the ball and if they can win on the defensive side, specifically in the trenches, I think that puts Florida State behind what they want to do. Not that they can have success through the air, but just that it's not what they are built to do as a team, is to just be a pass first, pass only type of offense. So if they can win in the trenches, I think Duke has a real shot in this game.
You mentioned it, and it's certainly going to be my key I think for Duke staying in this game, regardless of if Riley Leonard is healthy, it's time of possession. Both of these teams are near the bottom statistically when it comes to time of possession. It's like 89th and 91st, I think, is where they're ranked. So neither of them do a great job at hanging on to the ball for large swatches of the game. But if Duke is to win this game and upset Florida State, they're going to have to take care of the football. They're going to have to maintain drives. And I know at times Duke wants to go fast, right? But if you don't have Riley Leonard, that's not going to be on the table. Henry Beelan throwing, 4 of 12 is not going to get her done, right? Jordan Waters is going to have to be a mainstay. He rushed for 123 yards against the Pack last week. That's a very good North Carolina State defense who, listen, I think a lot of us kind of expected NC State to at least hang around in that game, right? Without Riley Leonard, who is Duke? Well, we got to know the Blue Devils as a team last week when they shut out North Carolina State, or shut them down, I should say. They gave up 3 points, but shut them down, and they did enough on offense. Is that good enough to beat Florida State? Probably not, but it can give them a chance. And so for that reason, I'm going to take Duke plus the 14 as we move into our points. I agree. I agree with everything that you guys said. I don't know that Florida State has shown me what I need to bury a good team, at home or on the road. And if I'm wrong about this, fine, totally great. Because Florida State is my pick to win the ACC. They have the best chance at the playoff from that conference, in my opinion. We'll talk about North Carolina later. But if Florida State comes out and has that prove it game, awesome. Put it on the resume.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think Duke gets buried easily either. That's the other side of the equation. I don't think that they play a style of football or have a culture that allows them to lose by a ton of points very often. That could get broken this week with all the injuries, but if it's my money, if it's my nuggies, whatever we're putting on it, I'm going to bet on Mike Elko keeping the game close.
Yeah, I'm definitely on Duke with this one. If we want to go, I don't know, full predictions or whatever, but I think we're all across the board. Just Duke plus 14. We've been talking about it. They're not going to get buried in this one. They're too good of a team, too good of a defense. And I don't think that there's any way that they, get blown out like this. It's a huge moment for Florida State. I think it's a game that they need to make a statement in if they're going to, kind of get that national respect. It kind of seems like they've been falling behind in terms of national respect. You've seen, Washington get a lot of love, Oklahoma get a lot of love with, big wins over big teams. And Florida State's sitting over here like, well, I guess, beating LSU by a bunch in that first weekend and then, taking care of business against Clemson. I guess this doesn't really win us anything, right? And that's partially true because they haven't looked all that good doing it, right? So this is kind of a statement win for them if they can. But I think, finding a way to cover that 14 would look really good for them on their playoff resume.
Gracious him. How about